And joining us on the line, Moloto Mothapo, ANC spokesperson in Parliament. Thanks so much, Remo Thapo, for your time. Just today's exercise in Parliament, the DA calling for a probe in the allegations of state capture. Have we learned anything more?
Well, we as the ANC will not align ourselves with that request for a parliamentary probe on the allegations of state capture and undue influence on the government, precisely because those are very serious allegations that point to acts of criminality, and therefore they do not belong in Parliament, but they belong to competent authorities such as Chapter 9 institutions or the police for proper and expert investigation, so that if there is truthfulness to such kind of allegations, that can only be established through that process. But Parliament does not have the capacity and is not even equipped with relevant expertise to conduct such kind of a probe. So our advice to the DA is that they should contact the nearest police station, or they know the addresses of the public protector or any other relevant Chapter 9 institution to report such kind of allegations so that they are put to rest.
All right. Is this the end of the matter? And don't you have concerns that you need to satisfy what's in the public discourse, that of the allegations of state capture?
Well, the allegations are there. They are part of the public discourse. You know that the ANC at the Tuli House conducted its own investigation, and unfortunately, people who have evidence did not come to present such evidence. But unfortunately, Parliament, as we have said, it's not equipped and capacitated to conduct a criminal investigation into allegations of this nature. So that's why you need the police, you need the relevant Chapter 9 institution to conduct such investigation, so that they can be put to rest, so that if indeed there is truthfulness to such kind of allegations, those who are responsible are made to face the full wrath of the law.
All right, Remo Thapo, just stay on the line. We have Tsepo Khadima, a political analyst in studio, Mzwane Lemanyi, founder of Decolonization Foundation. Gentlemen, thanks so much for your time. Again, just the whole exercise of Parliament, the call for a state capture, this could have been handled differently. Do you think the South African public is any wiser, any richer, or any closer to getting to the bottom of state capture?
Look, I mean, personally, I'm astonished that grown-ups can take the amount of time that they have taken, as they did today, talking about a completely a misnomer, a nonsensical concept, which is got to be called state capture. First and foremost, if anything, I think their conduct and even the party, in this case the Democratic Alliance, who put this motion forward of a concept called state capture, for me, it worries me in terms of the quality of parliamentarians that we have there.
But
the parliamentarians, we expect them to be legislators. And what has happened, and more so coming from a party that itself, by the way, we hasten to add, that they wrote a letter thanking the same family that today they are vilifying without recourse as having captured the state, something that is completely impossible, but also even using a forum that completely, there's no way that it can assist in us being any better informed that of establishing an ad hoc committee.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but the whole purpose or the privileges of being in Parliament, you can grandstand, you say certain things, and they sound legitimate. So because, when Musi Maimane says, when Jacob Zuma says Nene must go, he says, by the end of the week it will be done.
That's not what they're paid for.
Yeah, but I mean, is this also using or abusing your parliamentary privileges by saying things that haven't had the verified evidence put forward?
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think this is really abuse of privilege to smear people because this is now national TV and all that. But I think what is the real debate here? The real debate here is the 90% of the economy that is actually captured by a few monopolies. This is a discussion South Africa should be having. The discussion South Africa should be having are the hundreds of billions that I've reported that look like they've been misappropriated, and yet there is no there is no call for a parliamentary inquiry about 180 billion that I've reported at the Public Protector and Competition Commission to say something is not right. I've reported at police stations everywhere, yet Parliament is not interested in looking at this matter. This is what we should be looking at.
Let's take it to Remo Thapo. Just on that, are you looking into a wider debate on the true state capture, stemming back even prior to democracy?
Well, Parliament is a forum for debate on matters of national importance. Any matter can be proposed in Parliament for a debate. But when it comes to the issue such as the one that is being suggested by the DA, you have to weigh it against the rules of the Assembly, against the constitutional mandate of Parliament, and take an appropriate decision, because we cannot afford just a mere grandstanding, particularly on matters as serious as those relating to the so-called state capture and undue influence on government. But when we talk about the issues that Mr. Manyi is referring to, matters of national importance that should find space in Parliament for interrogation, for debate, and probably for appropriate recommendation on how to go forward as a nation. Those definitely have got space in Parliament, and we cannot say that they will never be debated. I'm sure at some point they will find a way into Parliament, because they are very important matters.
Is it your view that even if there were to be a parliamentary ad hoc committee or inquiry into allegations of state capture, that the opposition would not be satisfied if that outcome was not in their favor?
Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Mothapo, can you hear me? I'm saying that even if you were to have a parliamentary inquiry, that if it didn't favor the opposition's appetite for a particular position, that this would also be regarded as not eligible, or rather not, or rather they would boycott this particular motion. I think we've lost Mr. Mothapo there. Just Tsapo on that note.
Yeah, look, I mean, I want to sustain the point that I made. The parliamentarians are not paid to be competing with the comedians. We've got enough comedians and theatrics in the country. Their job is to ensure that they can do what they've been elected to do, to be legislators. Earlier today, myself, Mr. Manyi, and a number of other concerned citizens engaged with one of the premier, very important state-owned companies, being South African Airways. Some of the things that we are concerned about there can only be remedied through legislation. It is this same Parliament that we expect them to rise up to the occasion so that they can ensure that there are proper legislative mechanisms to ensure that we can start to move this country forward. We cannot be sitting here 22 years later and still be talking about, in this case, a procurement budget of an important state-owned entity like South African Airways, 2%, a paltry 2% going to black people. We speak about Eskom, for example, their procurement budget. We haven't even touched in terms of what the private sector. These are the very important issues that we need the legislators, being the members of Parliament, to assist this nation to ensure that we can address unemployment, inequality, and poverty.
In fact, we invited David Mania, the DA Shadow Minister of Finance, who's unavailable. But what I wanted to ask him was that this is a strategy that is working very well in favor of the DA. In just casting aspersions, there isn't evidence, but it does create that level of doubt and suspicion. And anything that relates to government and the ANC, etc., particularly when it comes to the Gupta-led companies. That in itself, I wanted to say to him, kudos. Yes. But what are the real issues that people need to be asking? Because again, there are structures where these things can be ventilated, and yet there's no evidence, and this rumor mongering is perpetuated.
For us as the Decolonization Foundation, one of the critical issues when we talk about capture, the main thing that we should look at is the capture of national treasury by big business. We would want to positive view. In fact, we've asked the Public Protector to investigate the capture of national treasury. National treasury only acts in line with what big business wants. It does not even respond, even after an ANC resolution to amend or review the PPFA. They've not even begun their work on that one. They're busy with regulations instead of focusing on the law. So for us, National Treasury is at the center of the economy, is at the center of making things happen. Their policies determine how the economy flows. And as we speak right now, the policies that are managed in that department are actually responsible for a lot of mayhem in terms of prosperity of black business, as it were. Whether it's PFMA, which favors international companies, as it were, which also, whether it's PFMA, whether it's PPFA, all these money policies, they favor big business and they're managed by National Treasury, and no amount of saying amend this, review this, has got any impact, as it were. So we conclude that National Treasury is actually captured and it continues to stifle the economic growth.
All right, from the ANC spokesperson in Parliament, Mothapo joins us. So what is your response with what Mr. Manyi is saying, that the ANC-led Treasury, or rather, is captured by monopoly capital? Mothapo?
Hi, Cindy.
Yes, I'm not sure if you heard what Mr. Manyi was saying, that National Treasury is captured by white capital and therefore stifling black advancement or aspirations.
Well, what I can say is that those, of course, are serious allegations, and of course, Mr. Manyi has reportedly taken those allegations or charges to the relevant authorities, and it is up to them to conduct an investigation in those allegations so that they can be an outcome that all of us as South Africans, we can be able to know what is really the truth or otherwise regarding those allegations. So
But sorry, Mr. Mothapo, there are other allegations. The EFF saying that there is a proof that the Guptas received 400 million rand from the Russians to facilitate a nuclear power deal. Again, this goes with the ANC-led government, that there is wrongful or underhandedness of sorts. Don't you think that the ANC needs to probe the EFF at least and others to ensure that there is the sufficient evidence?
Well, those that make allegations, obviously, the burden of proof, as always, rests on them. And in this case, that's why I'm emphasizing that Mr. Manyi has, as we understand, taken the matter to the relevant authorities. But because the worst thing that one can do is to make allegations for the sake of making them without pursuing them with those authorities that exist to investigate such.
Yeah, Tsapo, the COP also said that the entire cabinet was captured. I mean, today was just, as you were saying, theatrics and everything else but getting to the bottom of the matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think South Africans should start to strongly call on Parliament and members of Parliament to do that which they have been elected to do, to that sacred office. And that is to really ensure that the work of being legislators is carried out diligently, because that's what South Africa deserves, nothing less than that. But all of these other theatrics that we are seeing certainly are not taking us forward. There are much more bigger issues. Now, if, for example, the debates were about economic policy, were about transformation, were about how to ensure that we achieve a non-racial and non-sexist society, and saying what are the legislative tools that can be put in place, I think South Africans would be better informed and therefore would really see that indeed they have done right. In fact, the conduct that we are seeing happening in Parliament now, I making a submission that it is one of the things that will add to the voter apathy, because we are not seeing the important work. So by and large, people will be asking, well, why bother to vote if they're going to be conducting themselves in the manner that they do. But the very issues, my own personal, I'm interested in what are we going to do about the economy? What are we going to do to ensure that this economy can grow at the 4 to 6% number that has been set? What are we going to do to ensure that it will be an economic growth that creates jobs? What are we going to do where we can once and for all have clarity as to what economic policy are we going to pursue? Because currently, I saw one of the editors of the financial papers saying that we are a free market economy. And that certainly is not happening. And in fact, we should not even be going that. We should be looking at the merits of very important subjects such as
Can we move
those.
forward without the economic CODESA, though, especially with one MP saying that the reason why we're stuck where we are the concessions that were made for a united and multinational democratic country?
Yeah, no, look, I think the key thing, the African National Congress has majority in parliament. And I think for us as the foundation, we're calling upon the African National Congress to exercise its power. It's not doing that well enough. It must exercise its power. There's laws here that are already in place to ensure that the transformation, the policing of those laws, the supervision of those laws, the enforcement of those laws leaves a lot to be desired. So calling upon the government to ensure that those laws are in place. We don't need another economic CODESA. We don't need to negotiate anything here. We've got laws. The laws say this must happen. And if it's not happening, you can make other laws to make sure that things happen. But the important thing, there must be investment in the enforcement of those laws. And importantly, government's good work, the brand equity of government is lost in the communication, in that, again, National Treasury is not funding communication of government. Every year, year after year, Department of Communication is facing a decline in its budget, and yet it's meant to communicate 34 departments. How is the GCIS meant to communicate that without budget? It's being throttled. Next thing, everybody says this government does not communicate, but to communicate costs money. To come to do an ad costs money. To buy airtime costs money. National Treasury is throttling and undermining the good work that this government is doing. So indeed, we would be saying part of the transformation must start at National Treasury.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there, Mzwanele Manyi. I'm not sure if you're putting your hand up for that post as group communications for GCS.
I don't think he wants to go back.
I don't think he wants to be there, but thanks indeed. Tsepo Khadima is a political analyst. Mzwanele Manyi is the founder of a Decolonization Foundation, and on the line, ANC spokesperson in Parliament, Remoloto Mothapo. We take a quick ad break. We'll see you shortly.